Andrea Berta, obviously the sporting director for the club of Arsenal, Hod, he's the head of all sporting activities at the club of Arsenal, is under pressure. Welcome to the Rokani Media Football. How are you guys and where are you watching us from? I go by the names of Rokan David. Smash like button, comment and share. If you're only watching us for the very first time, endeavor to subscribe to this channel so as not to miss out on the stories that we do upload in here on a daily. I want to let you know that it's not an easy day for Liverpool fans because they've just gone ahead to smash by the side known as Man City 4-0, and guess what? In the midweek, they're obviously going to be playing away at PSG, one of the deadliest attacking teams in Europe. No, you just feel for the manager Ancelotti, and it looks like he's soon really packing his bags from England back to Netherlands. But that's the game of football, and what else do you expect from football? It's all about losses and wins, not so? Now, let's obviously head into the story that has been brought to us by the Telegraph Football. They've told us that Arsenal director Andrea Berta is under pressure to oversee major player sales this summer. The club are exploring multiple options with financial constraints, forcing tough decisions behind the scenes. Very few first-team players are considered untouchable heading into the window. Now, very few first-team players are considered untouchable heading into the window. Right? Now, if you know that we do have players who already know that they are on the transfer list to exit Arsenal. Ben White in there. Nogard in there. Gabriel Jesus in there. Martinelli in there. Who else? Those are like 5 players. But Telegraph Football is telling us that very few first-team players are considered untouchable. And by the way, you might get shocked that the club of Arsenal might obviously sell players that you don't even think they're supposed to sell, because Andrea Berta is a very serious man and a result-oriented man. I've already told you that the level at which Arteta has taken Arsenal is now all about getting in what we call finished articles. You get? Arsenal is at a level of accommodating finished articles. You get? And if a player is signed when he's a raw diamond, he must be a special talent in there for you. He must be having something special in him. Like you see Mosquera, Mosquera coming through at a very little fee, but we all know what Mosquera brings up onto the pitch. Everyone has been satisfied that the lad is really one of those that has gone ahead to put out a very huge performance in there. So, Andrea Berta, according to me, he's under pressure from his bosses because he knows to it that to dominate European football, you need more world-class players. I had even forgotten to put Leandro Trossard onto the list, and I do believe that he is one of those that might obviously find himself really leaving the side of Arsenal. Therefore, so Arsenal might offload close to 7 players. Most of you are not even seeing it coming, but for my case, I see it coming. Arsenal might offload close to 7 players. That is it. They can offload 7 players in the summer transfer window. And that means they're obviously going to be having a big transfer window. Now, when you look at the players that Arsenal is pinpointing at to bring in, they really gonna cost Arsenal a huge amount of money. That is it. You get? And Arsenal might get into record spending, come this summer transfer window. And that calls in for them to obviously go ahead and do the needful and offload. Because if you're talking about Sandro Tonali, £100 million player, You are talking about Julian Alvarez. He can go for 120 million pounds. Only those two players are going to be costing Arsenal 220. You understand? 220 million pounds. Now, if you're offloading close to 6 players, that means you need to obviously bring in more. Right? You need to bring in more, not 2. So that's how Andrea Berta wants to elevate his squad. And by the way, when you look at all those players that Arsenal wants to offload, they are the ones that we've gone ahead to obviously use as a benchmark to say Arsenal has a very strong squad. Not so? Now, if those are the players that we've gone ahead to use to say that Arsenal really has a very, 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 very strong squad, if you offload them, that means you need to replace them. Because if you offload Trossard, Martinelli, that means you need to get in another player who plays as a left forward. And by the way, I hadn't even talked about the left forward. You understand? So, that is 1. 2, if you offload Nogard, you need to bring in another midfielder, right? And you need to study the situation in which Mikel Merino is in, because if it really worsens, then Mikel Merino won't obviously be helpful for you, and you're like, I have to bring in another player. If you offload Ben White, you need to bring in a right back, and they're talking about Livramento. Now, if you're talking about Livramento, 40-50 million pounds, Gabriel Jesus, you offload him, you have to bring another striker. So that means if those offloads are really made, Arsenal will have to bring in close to 4-5 players in. And all those players should be finished articles. Players that are really proven beyond. You get? So that is what has gone ahead to put Andrea Berta on pressure, because he needs to make these sales early. Sorry, not that. Because if you are a very good team and an elite team like Arsenal, what you do is don't at any one point sell a player before you bring in his replacement. So what does Arsenal have to do? Arsenal have to first bring in these players and then offload, because when you offload a player before you bring in his replacement, you will obviously pay a tax for that. They'll obviously overcharge you, so they don't want to pay that tax. So that's why the pressure is there. And where is that money going to come in from? Meaning that the calculation has to be made hugely. That is it. And early enough. Because if you're talking of bringing in Sandro Tonali, 100 million pounds, Julian Alvarez, 100 million pounds, Livramento, like 40 to 50, that is 250 million pounds. Then you have to look at the left side, because you need to offload either Martinelli or Trossard, or both of them. And you have to obviously spend another 80 to 100 million pounds, because the players they're really looking at are really very expensive. If you're looking at a player called Kvaratskhelia, is in 100 million pounds plus. You get? If you're looking at a player, Ousmane Dembele, you know the price. Anthony Gordon, you know the price. So, Arsenal, all the players they're really looking at are going to cost them close to 400 million pounds. And that's what I've told you. It might be the record-breaking transfer spending for the club of Arsenal. And I mean it, and I know that's what it will be. So that's why Andrea Berta is under pressure, because he needs to balance up everything. But the beauty is that there is a Lewis Kelly who is a homegrown player whom they can sell. And they obviously get what we call pure profit. And I know they can recoup close to 50 million pounds from Lewis Kelly. There is Ethan Nwaneri. You get? They can sell him for some good amount of money, like £40 million, and they also include what we call a buyback clause and a sell on clause. You understand? So we wait and see. And they're saying few players in the first team are really considered untouchable, and I think the untouchables at Arsenal include David Raya, Timber, Magalhaes, Saliba, Rice, Zubimendi, Saka, Victor Gyökeres is untouchable, Odegaard is untouchable, and I think even Ebelechi Eze has gone ahead to obviously reach that level. And to me, I think they are going to be shockers at the club of Arsenal this summer transfer window, because if you read well what Thomas Partey put out yesterday in the meeting that he held with the manager, that is Mikel Arteta, Partey indicating that he wanted to stay, and Arteta sat him as a father and told him, you have no more business here at Arsenal, meaning that Arteta is that serious man who will come up and obviously tell you that it is no business, you know. So I want to let you know that it's really serious business at the club of Arsenal, and it's really gonna call in for heads to roll. And if the heads roll, I don't know who will survive and who won't survive. So I'm here to wait and see how Andrea Berta will obviously handle this pressure, and we are waiting for the results in here onto the Rokani Media Football. Thank you guys for watching through. Rokani David is my name, and continue to subscribe to this channel so as don't miss out on stories that we do upload in here on a daily. And we are heading into the game of Arsenal versus Southampton. Chelsea already through to Wembley. Man City already through to Wembley. Can Arsenal join them to Wembley? That's what we are waiting for. And in the next 2-3 hours, we'll be knowing whether Arsenal is there, because they are playing Southampton, a stubborn team that can really give them a very, 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 very nosy. That can give them what we call a bloody nose. Arsenal fans, this game is really going to be very tough for you, unless otherwise you kill it off early enough. I'm out.